English translation 523rd Contact Saturday, the 30th of July, 2011, 10:41 hours.
You come early, friend Quetzal, but welcome and greetings.
Also my greetings to you, my friend. It is not possible for me to come here with Ptah in the afternoon, because when you do your correction work, I am already busy with other important things. But as I wanted to have another look at everything in and around the center, I have been here for 2 hours. That is also how I saw the concreting work that is done behind the garden. I have also watched you explaining new earth-moving and concrete work to Silvano, which still has to be done. I also think that these are unavoidable. I have looked at the retaining wall work underneath the 2 parking spaces as well as the various water drainage channels and the retaining wall on the left of the board by the swing, and the long retaining wall on the left of the road past the pier. To all this, I think you have made very good arrangements regarding the construction of these works, because they are really necessary regarding the rising storms and the flooding and sliding of the car parks and the slopes and meadow borders. In general, a very good job has been done. And speaking of the car parks, I would like to say that I now have to speak openly about Andreas Ansonen's plans for a roof over them, because Ptah and I have gained certain insights into this. This is one of the reasons why I came here today. Ptah and I have been looking into the possibility of a car park cover, as we have always done for certain things concerning the center, the buildings, the security measures, and the grounds, as you know. So Ptah and I also made a decisive look at the future with regard to a possible roofing construction, and we were both able to make the same observations. The future review revealed several important factors that make it absolutely necessary to refrain from roofing the 2 center car parks. First of all, a closer look at the future revealed that a roofing would have an extremely unfavorable, disturbing and disfiguring effect on the appearance of the site. While secondly, for all foreseeable future, motor vehicle movements on both car parks would be very strongly impaired. Also with regard to third-party transport vehicles, etc. Already now, these vehicle movements in the car parks are not ideal, but this is not to be changed due to the scarcity of space required. There is, however, a third factor, which would not, however, become effective until 2064, as our feasibility studies, which Ptah and I carried out independently, showed. If the car parks were to be roofed, this would result in 2 deaths and 1 person injured in the year in question because a certain event would cause the structure to collapse. These facts should be taken into account under all circumstances, so it is absolutely necessary to refrain from roofing the car parks. If this were to be ignored, it would be a profound irresponsibility.
We will of course adhere to this, because to risk anything in the ways you mention would be irresponsible. But what is it about what you said earlier, about the...
It would indeed be extremely irresponsible. And what I said earlier about that has its correctness.
We have always done well following your and Ptah's advice, also in terms of retaining walls and the drainage around the center. The retaining walls are recent, but the water grooves have been there for years, and they have worked very well.
That is of correctness. But there is one thing I have to mention, which you should fix immediately, and that is at the pond.
That is already arranged, because you must mean the necessary wall heightening at the pipe outlet, so that the water does not overflow the edge, and not tear away the meadow edge. Gunter is already instructed to raise the wall by about 15 centimeters so that the water can run off at the top outlet. We have also provided other water grooves that are necessary apart from what I talked to Silvano about today. I also think it is necessary that every time a water groove enters the meadow edge, a small ditch is dug down to the woods so that the water is not distributed over a large area of the slope, which could cause it to slide down.
The thing with the pond was what I wanted to arrange, and the thing with regard to the small ditches is probably also an inevitable thing, which you have recognized correctly. Basically, however, I did not come here with these things in mind, but only dealt with them because I had enough time to look everything over. Florina let me know that you recently wanted to make a new group decision on the financial contributions for meals, but that there were some uncertainties. So I am here now, and I have also brought my pertinent notes with me in order to find a decisive new regulation, which I believe is necessary because since then, when we worked everything through, I know that food prices have risen considerably.
That is correct. Apparently, there had been a general misunderstanding for years, which probably also led to wrong records and wrong assumptions. It also seems that our last AGM conversation was a distraction of attention, which again led to misunderstandings. If I remember correctly, when you and I established the payment rule for meals, the whole group decided, according to your advice, that core group members who do not live at the center pay far. 6 per meal. 1 meal a day was free, namely breakfast, so if a member had 3 meals a day, only 2 had to be paid for. And when we talked about this again later in the group, it was decided that the same principle should also apply to passive members when they work and eat at the center. According to this decision, as I know it was said at the time, breakfast does not have to be paid for, only lunch and dinner, as I mentioned earlier. On the first Saturday of the month, that is to say on the General Assembly Saturday, the core group members do not have to pay for dinner, so on this day only 1 meal is charged, namely lunch. Passive members who come to work and bring their own food only pay per meal if they take center meals at lunch or dinner. Is this how I remember it, or am I making a mistake?
What you say is of correctness. So you are not mistaken. My notes in this matter say exactly what you just said. If anything else was recorded, it would be a misunderstanding. It is probably appropriate to mention that accurate minutes must be kept if there is not to be any misunderstanding.
I am glad of that. But what I want to say is that we have been charging a contribution towards expenses of CHF 7.00 per meal for some time now, because food prices have really risen sharply since we decided to charge CHF 6.00 for a meal. In my opinion, I think that an increase is justified.
The increase from 1 franc to 7 per meal is indeed justified. That is of correctness.
And with regard to the system in place, should it be changed or maintained? Basically, the CHF 7.00 is really only a contribution towards expenses.
This should not be changed because it is a fair regulation. And with regard to the contribution towards expenses, it is correct, because a full amount for a meal would have to be charged more.
Well, then everything is settled. But it was necessary for me to call you here, because it is unfortunately the case that decisions are always forgotten, which then at some point come up again and have to be refreshed. For this reason, a decisions folder has also been set up, in which decisions are listed alphabetically.
This is sensible, because this way decisions do not have to be looked up in the minutes, but can be checked in such a folder at any time. Now, if you have nothing else to discuss, I want to leave.
That was really all, but it was really important for us, even if it was only a simple matter. But it had to be clarified.
Then goodbye, my friend.
You will come back here again. Then goodbye in Salami.
Just a moment, because it has to be said that we are not satisfied with the way the minutes have been kept so far, and the records of the decisions taken at the General Assembly meetings, and the decisions, etc., because they are not logical and do not set out in detail in writing what the decisions are really meant to express. So Ptah and I want you to be very careful in the future to ensure that protocol and decisions are written and recorded in such a logical, clear and understandable way that there can be no more misunderstandings. In future, everything must be formulated so precisely that nothing can be misunderstood down to the last detail, and that there are not any ambiguities. This demand is probably appropriate and justified, because it is not acceptable that decisions are repeatedly forgotten, misunderstood, or misinterpreted, which is why it is also useful to have a folder of decisions, such as the one you mentioned, in which everything can be looked up quickly.